page set up. I didn't want to start before my noble was able to log on. Islam Solomon. I want to get a couple things set up. Give me 1 second. There we go. Whoa. I don't know how I did that. Got that all big and blew it like that. There we go. I was way too big. But I want to share a little bit of this. I was going to go live on my other page, but said nah. So we're on our Temple and School page, and we're also on YouTube real fast. And I just want to share some information that some of us may know, some of us may not know. But with me, I'm not here for any debate. I'm not here for any argument. What I do is I speak on topics. So in academia, I tell a lot of Moors, I'm a lecturer as well. And so on a college campus, I speak on particular topics. And so I'm an alumni from Grand Canyon University. I have a dual master's degree in first century history, religion, and a minor in linguistics. And so when I'm beckoned to speak on the college campuses with a lot of the students that I tutor, I have 2 Moors that I tutor on a college campus. A lot of times I go and I speak on topics that they ask me to, from peer-reviewed scholarly research. And so a lot of things I speak on in this more science paradigm, and a lot of times I just don't think, it's no thinking. I know a lot of times we're not versed in law and international law, on law of status. And so when I jump on these platforms, I'm not here to debate anyone. That's not my mission. You will be blocked for life. I'm an educator and a leader. That's just what it is. So I'm going to speak on some topics like definitions and understanding what we are. Show you that a lot of things are not even, how can I say it, used in that vernacular in first century. When I tell a lot of Moors the English language comes from Latin and the different other languages. So you must know what words mean when they were written. A lot of Moors talk things, but they don't prove it. And 1 Thessalonians 5:21 states, prove all things and hold fast to what is good. No disrespect to no one. Moors don't like to be challenged when they say this is law. And it's not law if it's dogma, if it's arbitrarily explained. So when we break the law down, a lot of individuals must bow down to real law. If not, then they arbitrarily explain the law to you, which is, it's not civil. So when we speak of things in law, when I tell Moors, there's nothing that you have to do but defend the Constitution and be legit and be willing to learn. And a lot of Moors is missing the academia aspect that I teach. My members get it, but on a college campus, when I'm dealing with professors and so-called scholars that may have studied, and I come with a higher level of wisdom, it's no argument, it's no debating, it's none of that. All my books fly off the shelf. It's no pulling tongues out because they're there for that reason. And my people are lost due to a lack of wisdom because we refuse to learn. We're not making nothing up. A lot of us are not versed in international law when it pertains to who we are and understanding language. So let's deal with a little bit of this. When we talk about uprising and things in law, when we talk about how the U.S. Congress passed the resolution HJR-3, the acronym we like to say HJ3IH, HJR-194, Congress Resolution 26, in which the U.S. federal government, under the command of U.S. President Andrew Jackson, rounded up our peoples. When we talk about the people, when I talk about tribal things, and that's how they separate us. So what I'm speaking on, if we please stay in the context, because context is so valid when we speak of historical facts in history, law, civics, etc. Why? Because law governs all days, especially if nationality is the order of every day. Please stay in the context. So the Yamanese, the Hitchiti, the Choctaw, the Cherokee, the Moor, the Omic, the Seminole, the Yuchi, the Washita, and forced them to walk west to Oklahoma, away from their traditional lands, which were illegally and unlawfully observed by the United States. We talk about the doctrine of discovery and all these other things in history. We talk about the Washita Moors. We talk about Queen Nanny and the Jamaican Maroons. So it's this more science is history, and it's nothing to debate. But prior to the passing of the law that I gave earlier, you got to understand in law, which we say is legal for anyone to research this, the U.S. Congressional Bill and the United Nations Declaration on the Rights of the Indigenous People. Our nation has had the most resistance from the United States of America, in exercising our rights of self-determination. I'm not, this is no radical speeching. This is free information. And this despite the fact that the United States, the United Nations of America, has passed presidential executive orders 13107, implementation of human rights treaties, and presidential proclamation PP 7500, guaranteeing our right to exercise our tribal sovereignty and self-determination. I'm talking about law. And if I'm not speaking law, how can I go on a college campus that I graduated from, that's an alumni from, and speak just like this, and get standing ovations, and get plenty donations? Because this is what certain people are looking for. We're the only group of people that argue on things that can't even be proven. That's why I say, for myself, I have to separate myself from things. The only problem I get backlash from is people that so-called look like me. When I tell people I'm in Arizona, I am who I am when I go. A Moor, a Sheik, a scholar, a leader on all facets of life. I'm not hiding or nowhere. I'm not teaching no hate speech. I speak law, and a lot of people don't like the truth of the law. It's just what it is. And the 1857 U.S. Supreme Court decision, when we researched the precedent law case, Sanford versus Scott, known as what? The Dred Scott decision, which has never been overturned. It was on the damn Jeopardy show. And it has made it clear that no descendant of the misnomer African can be a citizen of the United States of America. Ask anybody that with a calm voice. Go to your city officials with a calm voice and say, what were Negro, blacks, and color called before the Civil War? What was the real cause of the Civil War? You see? And this current state of affairs leaves those descendants of Africans, Moors, who are unfamiliar with international law. And people got to be honest with that. A lot of people are unfamiliar with international law. And don't tell me you got some Black Laws dictionary, because I'll destroy that. No disrespect. We have to do this in scholarship. We're going to tread with this. I'm just going to introduce you these are the topics that I speak on college campuses when I talk about international law. And then we must prove it from no biased perspective. The United Nations second decade of the world indigenous people. In fact, that they can now self-identify themselves as what? Indigenous or tribal. Look at the laws when they have Indigenous Peoples Day. Unable to have a nationality or the ability to identify and claim their indigenous heritage in accordance with the House Joint Resolution 194. Research this stuff. And you listen to these radical so-called sheiks talk about they finna make another government. I'm breaking everything out in law. Constitutional law. Come on, man, we'll say what you have the right to do. It's there. We must defend it. It's there. The legal limbo created by the Dred Scott decision of 1857 Moors, coupled with the Jim Crow laws and the Christian Black Codes, 1794, which are still used to this day, has put the descendants of Africans living in America in a stateless position. And this has caused these descendants of Africans, Moors, to rely on the United States courts, which have a history of biased judgments and decisions against not only misnomer Africans, but Native Americans as well. There is documented evidence and historical facts that numerous African, Moors, slaves were taken in as runaways from Europeans, became accepted into Native American Indian tribes, or married into Indian native tribes. Those African Moors who were adopted by so-called Native Americans, Indian tribes per se, were protected by Native Indian tribes and had become family and part of Native Indian tribes all over the United States of America. This would make the misnomer African, the Moors, and the Indians ethnically the same. And all over America, many misnomer African Americans claim not only their African heritage, but Indian ancestry. Follow what I say when I say Indian. Don't take my words out of context. We doing something as well. And many African American families have Indian roots in any one of the various tribes in America, such as Cherokee, Choctaw, Yamasee or Yamasi, Yuchi, Seminole, Washita, Lumbee, the Creeks, etc. etc. So if I can speak this science on the college campuses and get standing ovations and all my books fly off the shelf, why would you think I'm going to entertain Negroes that don't understand international law? Why? And the professors on the campus, they sit down and listen to the teachings. That don't even make sense. We resurrecting ourselves through law. HJR 194 in the 110th Congress, first session on February 27th. On February 27th. Oh, my phone getting low. Hold on, y'all. 1 second. I don't mean to stop, but I got to. Give me 1 second, family. I don't want my communication to cut off on my members because I'm live with my members and students too. But if it cut off, family, my members, please jump on the YouTube page, Nobles. Solomon and Brian, Islam Wars. But it was in first session on February the 27th, 2007, and it acknowledged that African Americans were stripped of their names and heritage. July 8th, 2003, President George W. Bush acknowledged in a trip to Gore Island, Senegal, that slavery was one of the greatest crimes of history. I also show you that when we've been put the president on notice, letters were sent. Islam Noble. But the U.S. House of Representatives, it expressed its commitment to rectify the lingering consequences of the misdeeds committed against African Americans under slavery and Jim Crow, and to stop the occurrence of human rights violations in the future. This is law. That's why you don't see me arguing things. That's why I can go and travel and speak like this, because I'm speaking law. I'm an American. What type of American I am? A Moorish American with Moroccan descent. What makes me Moroccan descent? Because I'm a Moor, born in America with Moroccan descent. I know my family background. I know my coat of arms and my family crest. The Northwest Ordinance, enacted by Congress in 1787, which began with the phrase, "The utmost good faith shall always be observed toward the Indians." But see, are they talking about you? This is when you can correct history. When I talk about points of history, it's nothing to debate. I'm not here to say, oh, what I think. I'm challenging you to understand law and research law. Four letters on American history, published November 17th, 1827, by Professor Rafiki to Dr. J.H. McCall of Baltimore. And it states, and I quote, "To this day they speak and write of the red men of America." What red men? "While there is not a red man, nor never was, in this continent. To this day do they attempt to separate the American languages from all others, while their roots and structure are exactly like many in the eastern continent. Further, it is sufficient to mention that there were in America, before Columbus came, nations and tribes of the following complexes: copper, tawny, olive, dusky, white or pale, yellow, dark, brown, or black, but none red unless painted, and that all these complexions are also found in Asia, in Polynesia, and in Africa." 1836, Treaty of Marrakesh, provided that Moors, Africans from Morocco living, were to be treated as equal citizens of the United States of America. I show y'all that in the consular courts. I show y'all this. Remember in 2004 in a National Geographic called the Olmec, the mother culture of the Mesoamerican civilization? It was on page 71. We are a people. The Declaration to claim indigenous rights. I'm talking about law. Let's deal with it. The United States of America, United States has continually fought and resisted to this day African Americans, and I like to say misnomer African Americans. Misnomer African Americans claim their indigenous status. We from the Atikadan, the nation of Moors in America, in accordance with international law, have declared. What more? I don't care if you Yemenis, I don't care if you Choctaw, whatever. You know, Moors. One nationality and many culture. What, you a Yemenis, you a Choctaw? Okay. Moors, in accordance with international law. In accordance with international law, have declared and proclaimed our indigenous rights. Our indigenous rights. Our documentation has been legally recognized, acknowledged, certified, authenticated, and confirmed as correct. Yet we still face persecution, apartheid, genocide, rape, kidnapping for manifesting our indigenous rights, as we are entitled to do by law. We are entitled to do this by law. That's why we must act according to the law. My mint leaf. Our documentation is already known. It is well known that misnomer Africans in America, which are Moors in America, who claim our indigenous status as Moorish Americans, especially if you call yourselves some Native American, which our prophet said, that's not, those are generals. We dealing with specifics. They are subject to persecution, ridicule, discrimination, all that stuff. Native American, Indian. Yet modern history is now unearthing and uncovering facts to prove the assumption by America to be contrary to archaeological evidence. Moors. On congressional record, page A, 3220 of May 11, 1955, and I quote with a silver tongue, mandates that the U.S. Congress must promote human rights in these 5 fields of endeavor: civil, political, cultural, economic, and social. The fact that this year that the United States must submit a report to the HRC. This was in what? I think 2018, if I'm not mistaken. That's the evidence that the United States of America is grossly they're responsible. Or how can I say irresponsible, negligent, obstructive, and tardy in these cases, following the mandate as laid out by its own Congress and its mandate, and it is obligated to under the United Nations Charter. Article 55 and 56. So when I tell people I'm not here to debate what nobody talking about. I'm not here for debate. I deal with law. My students deal with law. I'm not here to arbitrarily explain law or what I think. I don't care what I think. I know what I can prove. In the face of those lawmakers, I'm not here to prove a point to any individual. Talk about we don't know how to read. Yes, we do. We know how to read all levels of law. And the United States of America is deliberately violating its own laws. Presidential proclamations and presidential executive orders, treaties, and international laws it has signed and resisted misnomer African Americans from claiming they're indigenous. Follow the context when I say native. Follow that. Misnomer African Americans who do declare and claim their indigenous rights in accordance with what? International law. So when we talk about definition of the United States of America, when Moore's talking about I voted Democrat, I said, so you voted for what? A CEO? So, and when you do certain things, that means they have patents over you. I'm talking about all levels of law. United States of America, Inc., nonprofit, Delaware Corporation, Incorporated, date 4/1989, file number 2193946, United States of America, Inc., nonprofit, Delaware Corporation, incorporation dates, which I just gave. Entity name, United States of America, Inc., entity kind, corporation, entity type, religious nonprofit, residency, domestic, state, Delaware, status, void, tax information, last annual report file. And Moors don't understand what I be saying. It's like you don't want to deal with a person that's operating like that. That's a state, a municipal, a school, a charter, all those things, how the Moorish Science Temple of America is really set up. But we don't know language because we playing and we arbitrarily explaining the law. And in different levels of law, a word can have different things. Or mean different things. And these is facts. Definition of the United States: a federal corporation, an agency, department, commission, board, or other entity of the United States. Right? Right? So when we talk about domestic, definition of genocide in the United States of America, USC Title 18, Section 1091, basic offense, whoever, whether in the time of peace or in the time of war, in a circumstance described in subsection D, and with a specific intent to destroy, in whole or in substantial part, a national, ethnic, racial, or religious group as such, kills members of that group, causes serious bodily injury to the members of that group, cause the permanent impairment of the mental facilities of members of the group through drug, torture, and similar techniques, subject the group to conditions of life that are intended to cause the physical destruction of the group in whole or in part, impose measures intended to prevent birth within the group, or transfers by force children of the group to another group, or attempt to do so, shall be punished as provided in subsection B. D. Required circumstance of offenses. The circumstance referred to in the subsection A and C is that 1. The offense is committed within the United States, or 2. The alleged offender is a national of the United States, as defined in Section 101 of the Immigration and Nationality Act. Precedent in law is 8 in caps U.S.C. 1101. Non-applicability of certain limitations. Notwithstanding Section 32A2 of this title, in the case of the offense under subsection, an indictment may be found or information instituted at any time without limitation. I hope Moors know what I'm talking about. So I want to stay in things because a lot of times we can talk over people's head and they take things out of context. That's why it's so important for Moors to be students and be a part of things. Sovereign, as defined by DHS Manual, Department of Home Security, Department of Homeland Security, Domestic Extremists Manual, Black Nationalists, a term used by Black separatists to promote the unification and separate identity of persons of Black or African American descent and who advocate the establishment of a separate nation within the United States. The United Nations Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous People. See Article 2, 3, and 4. Read it. So when we talk about black codes, antebellum, state laws enacted to regulate slavery. 2. Laws enacted shortly after the Civil War in the ex-Confederate States to restrict the liberties of the newly freed slaves to ensure a supply of what? Inexpensive agricultural labor and toll maintenance, whites supremacy. But I don't like to use no supremacy because ain't nothing supreme over me. When you research the black codes of 1865, I'm just giving you history. Traffic, commerce, trade, the sale or exchange of such things as merchandise, bill, and money, people or things being transported along a route. So in Black Law's Dictionary, the 8th edition, page 1534, slavery, a situation in which one person has absolute power over the life, fortune, and liberty of another. That's Black Law's Dictionary. That's happening right now. That's the 8th edition, page 1422. So when we talk about kidnapping at common law, you got common law, you got criminal law, you got all these levels of law. Right now, I said kidnapping in the realms of common law. Just like in the early 1900s and some in the early 1800s, you can ask your grandparents, Grandma, how old were you when you married Granddad? Watch what she say. Boy, what you mean? Your grandma might have been 15 or 12. I bet you your granddad was probably like in his 20s, 22, 25, 26, guaranteed. And I'm not saying all, I'm saying what was common. You can get mad at what you want because a lot of people be operating on emotion and not operating with facts and law. Just like when I talk about pseudonyms and pen names. Respectus, respectus, in Old English and Scot law. Respite, delay, continuance of time, postponement. So if you ever hear someone speak like that in law, I hope you know what it means. And the clearly defined definition of terms of what the United States of America means by their commitments to the conventions, the rule of law, and respect of international law and human rights should be clearly presented, explained, disclosed, and revealed by all the members of the United States of America. You see? That's why nationality and ethnicity, when I deal with a law and international law, what is your nationality? Moorish American. What is your race? I can agree to Asiatic. I know we have other names, Eurasia and all this stuff, but I'm agreeing to as a people. What's our status? Free white. This is law. If you don't understand that, I'm not here to change you. That's not my mission. But if you talk about reparations, I want to see how people going to get reparations. Nationality and ethnicity of our nation cannot be coerced, defined, or manipulated by the United States of America, as it is a corporation which does not exist except in the contemplation of law. I'm not making nothing up. I'm giving free information. That's why none of my stuff be fact checked. It can't be fact checked. Because where the fact check is going to get that information from? I'm getting my information from the law. And we have the inherent right to classify or reclassify. Whether the Declaration of Human Rights, Article 15 says we have a right of a nationality and a right to claim it. No one will be arbitrary, denied a nationality and the right to change it. And to claim a child replaces the birth certificate. We have the right to classify or reclassify ourselves. That's when you proclaim, declare, and have due process. To nationalize ourselves and claim our historical legacy due to the state of citizenless, stateless limbo and the systematic deliberate threat being conducted by so-called powers that be, so-called religious organizations that strip us from our mental stability. But respectively, the UNDRIP, the HJR-194, the JHR-3, and the Resolution 26 established in law directly from the U.S. Congress and the U.S. Senate to allow us to not only claim our indigenous identity, but to fully express it as such in accordance with the United Nations Charter, all international instruments and domestic laws. That's why I'm proud to be a Moorish American. No other place I'd rather be but here in America. The United States of America, history and record of continually dishonoring, disregarding, and refusing to abide by the international commitments and domestic laws it claims to have full respect of. That's why we defend the Constitution. And you make people stand up on what? On their oath. It would land any other CEO of a corporation in jail for numerous violations of laws. The U.S. and its arsenal of corporate financial lobbyists appear to make certain that it will not be held accountable, nor be held to account for its past and present deeds of genocide, apartheid, all these things. All you got to do is research law. I'm not making nothing up. The United States of America, a religious corporation. Look at the doctrine of the discovery. What is the United States based on? If you ain't with it, where would you out? You were casted out. It wants to still perpetuate its religious, Christian ideology on the nation. And even some of our own melanated people, when they see us and we resurrecting ourselves, especially those that's honorable, you're gonna get used to seeing them more with the fez on, because your granddad and the Europeans that you work for wear it in secrecy, and they have Mecca, Islam, Medina on it, and they sons of Muslims, and they buried you in a shallow grave and had a jubilee, Jubel and Jubom and Jubellum. They had a jubilee and buried you in a shallow grave in the North Gate, Haram Mabith. It's just facts. It's just facts. We are the descendants of the original indigenous people, inhabitants of this landmass known as Turtle Island, land of the frogs, Egypt of the West, coined by the U.S. President Abraham Lincoln, Moors. The admission of the United States of America, or the USA, is a religious corporation, and it leaves to be desired whether the true intent of the USA is peace or really another, how can I say, something just made up. When we talk about the presidential documents, when we talk about papal bulls, the doctrine of discovery, the Christian black codes, the Indian Act, and related instruments in use by the United States of America, it appears that these corporations are saying or agreeing, excuse me, Moors, to abide by what is sanctioned and which they have endorsed on paper. Think about this stuff. Think about this stuff, y'all. We have declared ourselves indigenous and tribal and claim our indigenous rights as we are entitled to in accordance to the law. HJR 194, HJR 3. Look at this stuff. I'm not making nothing up. We're talking about laws. We're talking about we defend the Constitution. So as I get into the main topic, when Moors like to say, well, this dictionary say this dictionary say this. Okay, let's deal with some facts, and we're done. So when we talk about definitions, especially when Moors be quoting things like preachers, and the Bible says this, and Black Law's dictionary says this. No, it don't. What volume? Just like they talk about UCC codes. Man, come on, man. You have no idea. You have no idea. So let's deal with some definitions. Youth, a noun, Old English. Youth, young people, junior warriors, young of cattle. Related to Geong, from the Proto-Germanic. All these different spellings, how it's spelled. From the suffix of pi, the root, vital force, youthful vigor. See young, Proto-Germanic, abstract noun suffix, ITHO. See the TH. For those that deal with etymon and etymology, you know what I'm saying. Young is an adjective, Old English, Geong, youthful, young, recent, new, fresh, from Proto-Germanic. Source also of Old Saxon and Old Frisian, the Jung, Old Norse, Middle Dutch, Old High German and German, John, Gothic, Juggs. From pi, YUWN, with the dash KO, suffix of root, YEU, vital force, youthful vigor. From 1830 to 1850, young, France, young Italy, etc., were loosely applied to Republican agitators in various monarchs, also especially in young England, young American, used generally for typical young person of the nation. See Turk. Just like when we talk about different words for different things. Just like in first century, black wasn't used to describe ethnicity. When we talk about some Willie Lynch, I did this in college. I did a whole dissertation, destroyed the false narrative of some Willie Lynch letter. Not even true. It's made up. The language don't even match the tide. These is facts. It's nothing to debate. It's nothing to debate. Human, noun, a human being. 1530s from human, adjective. Its Old English equivalent, Guma, survives only in disguise in bridegroom. For my ones that understand language, you know what I'm talking about. The Guma. The Guman, human, lord, hero, Old Anglo-Saxon dictionary. A person, a man considered according to the rank he holds in society. So just like in our history, our name is based off our spirituality to society, aka an abdomen. Just like when I did the lecture that Africa was not named after European, we destroyed that Eurocentric and that Negrocentric propaganda from scholarship. And with all the rights to which the place he or she holds entitles him or her, and the duties which it imposes. Bavarian Institution, number 137. Persons are divided by law into natural and artificial. Persons are divided by law into natural and artificial. Natural persons are such as the God of nature formed us. Artificial are such as are created and devised by human laws for the purpose of society and government, which are called corporations or body politics. Research Black Law's first edition with all these more talk about Black Law's first edition and what? Oh, yeah, okay, whatever. Man, a human being, a person of the male sex, a male of the human species, above all the age of puberty, in feudal law, a vassal, a tenant, a feudatory. I hope you know what that means. The Anglo-Saxon relation of lord and man was originally purely personal and founded on mutual contact. Research Black Law's first edition. Now, another fact, because Moors be lying, there is no definition of human in either Black Law's Dictionary, first edition, and the Beauvair's Law Dictionary of 1856. Research it. And if you research it, come back and tell me. If you don't have Black Law's Dictionary, I have a whole library of PDF books. I offer them to them for Moors for small donations. That's why our people are lost, due to a lack of knowledge. We refuse to learn. We just collect. And then when it's time to regurgitate and prove who we are and defend ourselves, we can't. Because it's already done. Woman. Watch how woman. There is no definition of woman, singular. Stay in the context in Black Law's Dictionary, first edition, or in Beauvair's Law Dictionary, 1856. Woman, all the females of the human species. All such females who have arrived at the age of puberty. Black Law's Dictionary, first edition. Children, offspring, progeny, legitimate offspring, children born in wedlock. Black Law's Dictionary, first edition. So child, this word has two meanings in law. This word has two meanings in law. Well, what type of law you talking about, Sheik? You should know. I just said it has two meanings in law. So some research, you should be like, well, where does it have two meanings in law? In the law of domestic relations, as to the descendant and distribution, is used strictly as the correlative of parent and means a son or a daughter, considered as in relation with the father or mother. In the law of negligence, in the laws of the protection of children, and etc. It is used as the opposite of adult and means the young of the human species, generally under the age of puberty, without any reference to parentage and without distinction of sex. That's in Black Law's Dictionary, first edition. Research it. There is no definition of wedlock in Black Law's Dictionary, first edition. When I heard them more talk about they living out of wedlock, it's in Black Law's first dictionary. I said, that's false. I said, you just can't go around babbling shit out your mouth. 1 Thessalonians 5:21. Prove all things and hold fast to what is good. And then use it in a proper context. And please stay in context. There is no definition of no damn wedlock in no Black Law's Dictionary, first edition. And I quote, wed, sax in Old English law, a customary service which tenants paid to their lords in cutting down their corn or doing other harvest duties, as if a covenant to reap for the Lord at the time of his bidding or commanding. That's Cowell, Black Law's Dictionary, first edition. So when I talk about black and all these words people like to use to describe ethnicity, well, I say in first century, black wasn't even used to describe nothing like that. It was used in theater. It was used in theater. And I can have a intelligent conversation with any scholar, any person that deal with history, and they'll be like, he's 100% right. So what's a person's motive? That's when you got to start asking questions. What are our own people motive that continue to take us and burn their houses? Because the law is plain and simple. Adolescent, that age which follows puberty and precedes the age of maturity. It commences for males at 14 and for females at 12. There you go, common law. Let me say that again. Let me say this again. That age which follows puberty and precedes the age of maturity. It commenced for males at age 14 and for females at 12 years completed and continues till 21 years complete. Black Law's Dictionary, first edition. Like I said again, there's no definition of woman, singular in Black Law's Dictionary, first edition, or Bavaria's Law Dictionary. We talking about law. I broke all this down for you. There is no definition of girl in Black Law's Dictionary in first edition. Not whatsoever. If anybody comes, they lying again. Look, man, watch this. We talked about the child. So noun, a girl. 1300, GYRLE, child, young person of either sex, but mostly frequently of females. Of unknown origin. One guesses OED. When we use vernacular or acronyms, it leads towards the unrecorded on English, the GYRELE, the girl, from Proto-Germanic, GURWILON. You know, so it's all different ways, also represented by Low German, GAERE, boy, girl, Norwegian dialect, GORRE, Swedish dialect, GURRE. I'm just breaking it down a little bit, but you understand what I'm saying, right? Through the exact relationship. And if anything between all these is obscure, from pi, GHWR, also found in Greek, Parthenius, virgin, but this involves some objectionable Pelagie. Lieberman writes, girl does not go back to any Old English or Old Dramatic form. It is a part of a large group of Germanic words whose rows began with a G or a K and ends INR. And the final consonant in girl is a diminutive suffix. The GR words denote young animals, children, and all kinds of creatures considered immature, worthless, or past their prime. Stay in context. There is no definition of girl in Black Law's first edition. There is no definition of girl in Bavarian's Law Dictionary, 1856. We just fact checking. We can do this. We should fact check ourselves. Children, offspring, progeny, legitimate offspring, children born in wedlock, Black Law's Dictionary, first edition. So child, this word has two meanings in law, which we broke down already. We broke down, there's no definition for black. No definition of human in the Bavaria's Law Dictionary of 1891. Look it up. No definition of human in Black Law's Dictionary, first edition. Look it up. Youth, the word may include children and youth of both sexes. Look it up in Black Law's Dictionary, first edition. We just fact checking. Human rights, the freedoms, immunities, and benefits that, according to modern values, is special at the international level. When you see the ESP, the especial, meaning particular emphasis on this at the international level. all human beings should be able to claim as a matter of right in the society in which they live. That's Universal Declaration of Human Rights. You can research a precedent case. Research a Civil Rights 1026. Black Laws Dictionary, the 8th edition. I'm just quoting law. So let's deal with it. Human being. Let's research monster. That's in the Ballantyne's Law Dictionary. We dealing with law. So that's in Ballantyne's Law Dictionary, page 1930. Year 1930, page 599. Excuse me, Moors. So let's break it down. Monster, a human being by birth. Listen to this. I just had to resume it. My noble said, you getting too deep. He said, they done tried to cut your YouTube off. You crazy. So let's deal with a monster, a human being by birth. A human being by birth, but in some part resembling a lower animal. When I show you what an NBC is pertaining to a beast or four-legged animal, I'm telling you, man, all I'm talking. But if it cut off again, oh well. Not my problem. But human rights. But a monster resembling a lower animal, a monster, have no inheritable blood. A monster has no inheritable blood. A monster has no inheritable blood and cannot be heir to any land, albeit brought forth in marriage. That's in Ballantyne's Law Dictionary, 1930, page 830. We're talking about in law, human rights, the freedoms, immunities, benefits that, according to modern values, international law level, all human beings should be able to claim as a matter of right in the society in which they live. I'm getting y'all familiar with acronyms. Advancing Global Higher Education, AACRAO. Definitions for new race and ethnicity. White, follow me, we teaching. A person having origins in any of the original peoples of Europe, Middle East, or North Africa. We know it's not a such thing of Middle East. So you got to understand this. When I say you have a nationality, you have a race, and you have a status. Let's deal with it. If they put it right in front of your face, it's called the SF-181 form. Let's deal with it. Black or African American, a person having origins in any of the black racial groups of Africa. It's not one. American Indian or Alaskan Native, a person having origins in any of the original peoples of North and South America, including Central America, and who maintains tribal affiliations or community attachment. That's you right there as well. When you look at it, it says fill all these out that pertain to you. It's only one that ain't pertaining to you. That's black or African. Listen what Asians say. A person having origins in any of the original peoples of the Far East, Southeast Asia, or the Indian subcontinent, including, for example, Cambodia, China, India, Japan, Korea, Malaysia, Pakistan, Philippines, Islands, Thailand, and Vietnam. What do our prophet say in in chapter 25? The united of what? Man, we tripping. Native Hawaiian or other Pacific Islander. A person having origins in any of the original peoples of Hawaii, Guam, Samia, or Samaya, or other Pacific Islands. Come on, man. Y'all got to know this. No, there is no black racial groups of Africa. So some of the challenges that's faced by our young people, these are some solutions. The first major challenge by the young people is definitions. And the definitions of youth, human, and human rights must be clearly defined by the United Nations. The legal profession and the educational systems on the planet have different definitions for place to place, country to country, and city to city. And this creates a problem, as the word youth in the English language is not the same as it is in Spanish, and the speaking language definitions are not the same as legal definitions. Until this is dealt with, family, there is too much vague assumptions and presumptions as to what the word clearly means on a domestic as well as an international level. And this must be taught to the indigenous minors and minorities per se, even to the adults. And the problem that the misnomer of African Americans, etc., historically marginalized and discriminated groups, including the indigenous. And a lot of these so-called black groups, they lack effective participation of the youth belonging to historically excluded groups in public decisions making and have is that this black, what I tell people, it has no standing at law. Man, you can go back to history on Tom Jordan Morning Show when it used to be live. Obama said on the show, and then Tom Jordan met him and said, introducing, it's our first black president of the United States. And then if you watch it, Obama replied, Tom, I don't look at myself as the first black president because the word black has no standing in law. These is facts. The United States, as I speak on the forum of the SF 181 forum, it specifically states that black African Americans, African Canadians, is a person belonging to any of the black radical groups of Africa. But there are no black radical African groups of Africa and can be proven by anyone who is from Africa. It can be proven by from anyone of the motherland, as they refer to themselves as a tribe, clan, or village. And people from Africa will tell you they do not call or refer to themselves as black in their language. The word black has no standing at law. There is no definition for black in Black Law's Dictionary, first edition. Black means the same root, produced, Old English, BLAC, bright, shiny, glittering, pale. So clearly this definition of the word black does not apply to any misnomer black people. Black and the African American, Afro Caribbean, Afro Latin, whatever, those racial categories, those designations are internally recognized as what? Civil mortis, dead in the eyes of law. So how can the United Nations protect a family that is dead at law? How can the United Nations protect a family that is dead at law? You see, this is not me. We must come together under tribal laws. That's why myself and my people, we're not affected by what's going on. You're not seeing me making no whole bunch of memes with a whole bunch of Moors just making memes with shots and things. These Moors going on this damn meme page doing this goofy shit. Do you see the Mormon? Do you see the Amish worried about this? No, because we understand the laws that govern the world. This is what everybody say they wanted, to be free. This is what they said, to do things as a tribe. Dead at law. Compounding this problem is when blacks and African Americans, misnomer, they change their commercial status in accordance with the international standards of race and ethnicity. That's something that you do on your own. Proclaim, declare, and have a due process. As a whole, that's the truth of the AA22 number, that we must what? Restore ourselves back to our original state. 30,000 Negro, blacks, and colored must sign a petition and take it to the world courts. That's the only way we're going to be a people on the record and for the record. You know? And they still face violations of this indigenous and human rights. As per the United Nations resolution, convinced that the family, as a fundamental group of society and the natural environment of the growth and well-being of all members of a particular children, should be afforded the necessary protection and assistance so that it can fully assume its responsibilities within the community, reaffirming that the family is the natural and fundamental group unit of society and is entitled to protection by the society and the state. Those of black and African American, etc., have no domestic or international rights and protections. Those of black and African American, etc., of that racial category, who have been changed their race and ethnicity in compliance with domestic and international standards and claim their indigenous standards and standing, indigenous heritage, they still face these things. But we got to understand how we can combat it. That's why when you look up laws, when you see what an American is, it's a native of America, originally applied to the Aboriginals or copper-colored races found here by the Europeans. But you can't find nothing that was already here. but now apply to the descendants of the Europeans born in America. But now apply to the descendants of Europeans born in America. So it's telling you that it was a changing of keys. How? The name America must always exalt the pride of patriotism. That's what it says. America, the fact that black, African American, etc., has no standing at law and therefore is not recognized in law. It reveals the truth that black, African Americans, etc., are not entitled to human rights, indigenous rights, or any other kind of rights. Research the Dred Scott decision, Scott versus Sanford, 1857. And the case has never been overturned by the U.S. Supreme Court. The quoted conclusion of the Supreme Court decision written by Chief Justice Roger B. Taney was the current or former slaves and their descendants had no rights which the white man was bound to respect. This legal decision has become a private global policy. Those in the legal community will point to the 14th Amendment being the solution to this problem, when in fact it's a placebo. The reality of black has no standing at law is a legal and international fact, deliberately covered by those in legal communities. Them lying lawyers will lie to you. I debated them in college campus and won every time and rest my case with no rebuttal. Those who are visually identified as blacks are automatically discriminated against and their rights are violated. I'm telling you what I know for a fact. Women, children, and adolescents of indigenous and African descent will be at the mercy of authorities for health, human rights, and they are not guaranteed protections under the law, under the United Nations Charter, and under religion. That the sense of the Congress is as follows, and we almost done. Apology for the enslavement and segregation of misnomer African Americans. The Congress, A, acknowledge the fundamental injustice, cruelty, brutality, and inhumanity of slavery and Jim Crow laws. B, apologizes to the African Americans on the behalf of the people of the United States for the wrongs committed against them and their ancestors who suffered under slavery and Jim Crow laws. And C, express in recommitment to the principle that all people are created equal and endowed with inalienable rights to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, and calls on all people of the United States to work towards eliminating racial prejudice, injustices, and discrimination from society. Disclaimer, nothing in the resolution. No disclaimers in this resolution. A, authorizes or supports any claim against the United States. Or B, serves as a supplement of any claim against the United States. Passed the Senate June 18th, 2009. Nancy Erickson. So, examples of discrimination against young people in the exercise of the rights. Here we go. Discrimination. The word itself is discriminatory, as it is not found in Black Law's Dictionary, first edition, nor Beauvair's Law Dictionary, 1865, first edition. Stay in context. The word itself only comes into existence in the 20th century when you see discrimination, the effect of a law or established practice that confers privileges on a certain class or that denies privileges to a certain class because of race, age, sex, nationality, religion, or handicap. Federal law, including Title VII of the Civil Rights Act, prohibits employment discrimination based on any of one of these characteristics. So we know all that. So regardless of the aforementioned definitions with references to protection against discrimination, this still occurs in a so-called modern society. So the word black has no standing at law. It's not taught to indigenous minors or minorities, etc., young people and youth internationally. I'm telling you, that's why the United States, the SF 181 form, states that white, stay in the context, states that white is any person belonging to the original peoples of Europe. David McRitchie tell you about the ancient and modern Britons. You are the original people of Europe. the misnomer Middle East and North Africa. This would mean that misnomer black African Americans, African Canadians should be calling themselves white and not black. Why? Due to this deliberate and intentional misidentification, misclassification. And this explains the injustice, the discrimination, the atrocities, the violations, all this apartheid, all these things against the people of misnomer African descent, black, etc. See, I'm just talking about laws. When you talk about the United Nations Conventions on the Rights of the Child, United Nations Charter, United Nations Declaration on Human Rights, United Nations Declaration of the Rights of the Child, United Nations International Decade for the People of African Descent, the United States SF5 application asks for a race on the application, which is then attributed to the application's SSA card for work in the United States of America. Not required to live or work in the United States. I'm telling y'all. It's a nonprofit, a voluntary professional association of more than 11,000 higher educational faculties. So the SF-181 form is also promoted by the U.S. Department of Education on the IPEDS, race and ethnicity. I'm telling you, man. So if American is the copper color races, we know that. If we know that, originally applied to the copper color races found here by the Europeans, but now applied to the descendants born in America. Okay, so the fact that black African Americans, etc., have no stand in that law, therefore it's not recognized by the law, y'all. Come on. Come on, y'all. Congress is not bound by the Constitution. Congressional Record, page A3220, May 11th, 1955, page 242, 243. Behold, a Pale Horse by William Cooper. And even William Cooper, they tried to play with the science because they were something too. Just like a lot of people be dealing with that European that wrote, what's the European name? The Anunnaki, that bull crap. I forget his name, it'll come to me. They'll give you a little bit, but they try to relate it to some aliens and not try to tell you that you're the truth. A lot of them will point to the 14th Amendment, which is bull crap. No stand in that law. But what it says is, it's only test is under the obligatory power to promote human rights in these fields of endeavor: civil, political, economic, social, and cultural. These are found in Articles 55 and 56 of the Charter of the United Nations, a ratified and approved treaty. They are being promoted in all parts of the world by the United Nations. Statement by Carl B. Ricks, President of the American Bar Association. The Constitution is a dead document. This is free information. The Constitution is a dead document. Supreme Court Justice Antonin Scalia took the stage at the Southern Methodist University. Remember this when it happened? And he argued that the Constitution is not a living document and is dead. Justice Scalia discussed how children would visit the Supreme Court and refer to the Constitution as a living document, but that Constitution is in fact dead. This is not me. So what do that mean? On January 31st, 2011, Judge Donald R. Venzia announced in open court that he suspend the U.S. Constitution whenever he pleases. Huh? So didn't they take a judicial oath swearing to uphold the Constitution, or did they bypass their oath of office? See? You see? Suspending the Constitution is a declaration of martial war. Think about it. I just ask people questions pertaining to law and pertaining to freedoms. And I have these real conversations on the real levels of law. Because there's only one way to do things, and it's to do it the right way. The SF-181 form, the race and ethnicity category, which are in its most developed countries in the planet. What's the process of resurrecting ourselves when I talk to Morris? It's a process. We got to reveal the global and legal established fact. What? That black has no standing at law anywhere on this planet Earth. Call whatever you want to call it. Black is a, how can I say it, a hypnotic or hypnotic word. Black is a word used to control the Asiatics, or whatever you want to misnomer yourself. But I know who I am. Black means slave, chattel, debtor, corporate servant. It's been proven beyond shadow of a doubt. The following evidence. Even when they were fired of the Morehouse College president, John Sylvanus, they fired him. The descendants of Dred Scott accepted an apology from the family of Supreme Court Justice Taney, pronounced Tawney, in accordance with the religious instructions, how to make a Negro Christian. Come on, man, y'all gotta know this stuff. The UN Charter, the UN Declaration on Human Rights, the UN Convention on Genocide, the UN Convention on the Rights of the Child, UN Convention on Economic, Social, and Cultural Rights, UN Convention on Civil and Political Rights, UN Declaration of Rights of the Indigenous People, American Declaration on the Rights of the Indigenous People, UN International Decade for the People of African Descent. Youth organizations and youth-led structures are not involved in the developing of what we're talking about. That's why it's so important to take this all through the highways and byways, you know, to teach this to our children. An international promotion of the SF 181 form by the United Nations and the form of human rights, democracy, and the rule of law by passing a resolution making all states members nationally promote, inform, and educate historically marginalized and discriminated groups, including indigenous and minority groups of the SF 181 on the race and ethnicity definitions, the Forum on Human Rights, Democracy, and the Rule of Law. You can get copies of the SF 181 form to this historically marginalized and discriminated groups, including the indigenous and the misnomer minority groups. Come on, man. And so the final issue I want to tackle is this. This is a question I ask everyone, not based on how you feel. I'm talking about based on law of nationality and ethnicity and understanding who you are. Are blacks human? I just broke it down pertaining to law. Are blacks human? Are blacks entitled to rights? Are indigenous youth human? Are indigenous youth entitled to human rights? What is the UN going to assist when violations of indigenous youth rights are violated? And what was my conclusion? The OHCHR in relation in Human Rights Council Resolution 35 to 14 admit to the United Nations the truth that black has no standing at law. The OHCHR in relation to Human Rights Council Resolution 3514 admit to youth organizations and youth-led structures that the word black and those called black have no standing at law, and rights are obligated to promote, solution, and define in the chapters and articles 55 of the United Nations Charter, and finally promote the SF 181 as the correct solution for indigenous people and peoples of African descent to finally get the health and human rights protection for themselves and for women and children and adolescents. The OHCHR in relation to Human Rights Council Resolution 3514 on the youth and human rights should present to admit to youth organizations and youth-led structures that the solution to those youth that are misnomer black or visually appear black, I like to use the right vernacular, copper, is for them to call themselves white in accordance with international race and ethnicity standards. When you research pages 4 and 6 for those born in the Americas to change their race and ethnicity to white and American Indian. I'm telling you, law. I'm not here to debate how nobody feel. OHCHR in relation to Human Rights Council Resolution 3514 on youth and human rights should present to all youth and youth-led structures of the United Nations this aforementioned report, provide them the solution of the SF 181 as mentioned earlier, and tell the misnomer Black African American Canadian ETC youth that they have the right to claim their names and their heritage. The HJR 194, the Revolution 75, when we are able to annex our Bay and our L, and to eliminate injustices against people of misnomer African descent as required and in accordance with the Congress, Resolution 26. And so with that, man, I tell Moors, I love everyone. And I'm just glad to be able to go on college campus and speak like this with college students. And so I just jump back on here on social media and just talk to the people of things that I talk about on college campus. I go just like this. I was on campus today just like this as a Moor, with no Moors in the crowd. You may have a lot of people that think they're Negro, blacks, and color, and a lot of people that think they're Christians. But a lot of times when I speak, it's academia, and I'm okay with that. And I jump on this platform, and I'm not here to disagree with anyone. I'm challenging you to think and not react, and base your understanding and everything on law, because the law say exactly what we can do as a body, and that's all I'm doing. I'm teaching who we are, our nationality and our spirituality, which is law. And so if I'm accepted on academia, I definitely should be accepted with my own people, because I should be a prophet and an angel amongst my own people. I shouldn't have to just be teaching others. I shouldn't have to, when I go on college campuses and they say, well, why do you do teachers on YouTube for what? And you can do lectures on the college campus, and we give you donations. And all my books, I have a full library, Morris, with over 15,000 books, PDFs, that you can download, and they like NFTs. I did a whole lecture on NFTs because I have books that's worth thousands and thousands of dollars on Amazon. I have letters from Marcus Garvey that you can go on Amazon and pay $3,000 and $4,000 that I distribute to people. That's PDFs. So you can go to Office Max or Staples, they'll print and buy in a book, and then you will have that expensive book and be able to share the love with someone else. It holds its value. And I do this on college campuses. And so I'm not here to debate anyone with this Moorish science, man. I'm not here for that. I know who I am, and I challenge people to know who they are. But you can never pull yourself up by your bootstrap if you don't know law, especially if you don't know all levels of law and what's going on in your environment, and then what's going on with the laws pertaining to freedom. I just broke some laws down. Everyone should be clear on this. It's nothing even to debate when it's broke down that easy for you. If it's something to debate, then a person is arbitrarily trying to explain things, and I'm not here on a belief system. I say I deal with more science. So everything that I gave, if I was defending this defense in court, I would rest my case. And I brought everything out in law to show you pertaining to law, not pertaining to how I feel, pertaining to law. And I haven't even jumped deep into the law. I haven't even jumped into the laws all the way. I just gave a general overview of these things. I haven't even jumped all the way through law to where it'd be just like a person would get up out their chair and be like, I don't have nothing to say. Because it's self-explanatory. And our people are lost due to the lack of knowledge because we refuse to learn. It's restrictions in law. You must understand all levels of law. And there's more science. If you are more a sheik, you should be able to speak on all levels and be accepted. Why? Because you are a scholar. You are an adept. Not coming from no biased place. I'm never come from no biased place. I'm not for or against nothing that a person chooses to do. That's why we are adults. That's why we Moors. We have the right of choice. But I know what's right for me. And I don't promulgate my personal choices on a person. I tell everyone that we are in the nation of laws and to make the right choice. So make the right choice according what? According to your upbringing, according to what you understand. And the only people can do that is what? People that's free. People that's a part of something based on the laws. Do the Amish and do the Mormon worry about anything that you see Moors doing? No. Why? Because they operate, they have land. They under certain laws. There's certain religious laws that trump United States laws per se when it comes down to your rights, when it comes down to your tribal laws. These are facts, and it's nothing to debate. These things, it shouldn't be debatable. We should base all our understanding and everything that we do on truth and law, because you cannot arbitrarily explain the law. And if law is the order of the day, law is the order of every day. And then law is a word or vernacular, a word we use or a phrase is called fraudulent concealment. If you had all the information to make a sound decision, the average Moor wouldn't make the decisions they make when Moors use them as crash dummies. If you had all the information to make a sound choice, a lot of Moors wouldn't do it, because a lot of Moors do have good hearts. But we've been so conditioned, and we've been so mentally slavery, we'll give up our name for a morsel. And that's not the science. So with that being said, man, I love everyone. Like I said, if those like the teaching, if you want to give a $10 donation, the Cash App $KG Bay, I will give you books. I tell people, man, I have a full library. There's nothing wrong with supporting things. I will give you books. I've gathered and compiled over 20 books. I only put 10 out this year. I'm gonna put 10 more out after our meet and greet. But Morris, I just do things in a fashion, man, and I don't want and I'm gonna be able to say what's gonna happen beforehand based off the law. So it was a lady on the internet when she was saying she was a Sharifian officer and all this cut stuff, and I say that Sharifian officer stuff, that's been want to be free. All that language sound good. All those things sound good, and I'm not dissing that. It's a lot of truth and falsehood strangely mixed. A lot of things when I tell people in the neighborhood, in the community, you don't own this. You ain't finna own no house like that and take none of this stuff because it's certain laws, there's certain processes. So in certain neighborhoods, there's certain things you can do if you understand restrictions in law. I don't care what you say, but it's certain codes, it's certain bylaws that's gonna trump that. And people gotta understand that, and you can be kicked out of a community. If it's laws in a community where you can't, where you must have running water and you must have electricity to live in this neighborhood, then that's just the law. You can't change it. I know plenty of people fought that fight. What happened? A lot of bad things happen. You can do a lot of things on your own land. So that's what I'm telling people. You must get your own land. You can't change nothing. These laws are for your own land and for your group of people, not to try to say administer your laws in a community that's already developed, that have local laws that's going to trump anything you saying. I'm telling you, man. And especially what's going on today with this more science, they be waiting for a lot of these more, especially our empresses, to come with that. They waiting for you because they know where it come from. They like, oh, that's sovereign citizen stuff. And it's not a such thing as no sovereign citizen. I'm telling you what I know. It's certain ways to do things in law. It's a certain way to do things. Just like I tell Moors, for instance, I did a law case when I was teaching law about ownership and about real estate law. And I was doing a case study. I asked a student, I said, if you was walking down the street and a bicycle was on the sidewalk and you walk past and come back up and pick it up and ride it off, did you find it? He was like, yeah, it was just sitting on the sidewalk. I said, no, you didn't find it. You stole it because you didn't do the proper notifications based off the law. And you can't say I didn't know, because in the court of law, there's no excuse of not knowing the law. So no, you stole it because you didn't do the proper posting, because you know it was somebody's. It's not yours. So in each state, it's certain laws that you must do and abide by to claim certain things. And this is facts. And I'm not here to debate law. I'm just here to illuminate law. And with that being said, man, I love everyone. Peace, light, and illumination.